Back in 2004, when Volkswagen announced they were bringing the Phaeton to the United States, people mocked and balked because it was a vehicle that started at $60,000 and went up from there. And sure, it included a V8 and an optional W12 engine, just like they had in the Bentley Continental. People just weren't ready to pay $60,000 plus for a Volkswagen. But here I am in 2017, sitting in what is a $40,000 plus Volkswagen Golf. So let's see if the 2017 Golf R is all it's meant to be in this price range. Ready? Pretty simple so far. Because this is supposed to be their hot hatch, and I'm here in Austin, which is a hot new town, I'm going to take this car today, Super Bowl Sunday, on a drive through what I think is a great road in town. And I'm going to end up over on the hot new real estate market here, which is called East Riverside. And we're going to see if this car lives up to its potential. Let's go. Now, first order of business, this is the DCC with navigation vehicle. So it's essentially a all-wheel drive, 6-speed manual with navigation and dynamic chassis control, which means it has adjustable dampers, magnetically adjustable dampers, through this switch here. And with that switch, I can change modes of this vehicle between comfort, normal, race, and custom. So today we're going to go into race mode, but first I'm actually going to wash the car because it's been quite damp out the last few days and it's actually opening up and the car's filthy. So in all respects, I really hate shooting a filthy car. So let's go head to the car wash. If you put your foot in it, you hear the turbo screaming, and it delivers a lot of punch at about 3,000 RPM. But being that it's a manual, I do have a problem with this car, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. One thing that really boggles the mind here is I do have a slew of electronic devices here to help me with this drive. First of all, I have lane assist, blind spot detection, rear traffic detection, and front assist. So when I put the car in reverse, I get a backup camera, and it will also alert me with a tone if there's an oncoming vehicle perpendicular to me backing out of my spot. On the front end of the business, it has emergency braking capability, so it knows you're about to impact the car in front and will do its best to slow the vehicle down. But bundled with that, in this car, which is very odd, is that it has radar cruise. And radar cruise in a manual doesn't work like you think it works. Because for the most part, it doesn't automatically disengage the clutch. So exactly how does that work? I tried it, and it was a little crazy. But here we are. Oh, by the way, I have an electronic parking brake. And, well, let's get this out of the way first. If you're looking at a Golf GTI and you're looking at a Golf R, the key difference here is the GTI has a manual parking brake, whereas the Golf R has an electronic parking brake. The Golf R also has all-wheel drive, which is known as 4Motion, whereas the GTI is front-wheel drive. Now, I did drive a GTI previously, and it had DSG, which I didn't care for in the GTI. But this one has a manual, which I actually don't care for in the Golf R. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. Be right back. Okay, that's done. Here we go. Parking brake off, first gear. Hit the windshield a little bit. Hit the back window a little bit. There we go. Nice. So we're going to take a windy road, and I'm going to push this thing as much as I feel like pushing it. Now, about this manual transmission, I hate it. It's got two things majorly wrong with it. Number one, the clutch is really light and engages at the very top of pedal travel. And number two, the reach for third gear is a full arm's length. Fifth gear is a full arm's length. And the problem with that is, well, you missed third or fifth. So if I change the mode here to race, immediately the exhaust node changes, the steering stiffens up, and the suspension stiffens up, but not in the way you think it would. It's basically, from what I can tell, stiffening up the rebound. So it feels flatter, but it doesn't necessarily change the way it impacts the ground. So when you hit a union or an expansion joint on a bridge, for instance, it's still the same impact, but the rebound has been removed, basically. So in comfort mode, it's very, very cushy in the rebound, and in race mode, it's very stiff in the rebound. It's very subtle, but you'll notice it, especially through corners. Now, one thing I do like with the manual transmission is the fact that I'm not constantly adjusting gears like I would in a DSG. But with a DSG, the Golf R is much faster than the manual version. And that's because I found that this car is really only happy when you do large, lazy gear shifts. Sort of like if you were in a V8 muscle car, you don't really need to do these snappy gear changes. And this car doesn't really react well to a snappy gear change. So what I found is that if you're a track type person and you want the best time possible, go for the DSG. If you are a manual fanboy, and who isn't, this is a car to satisfy you, but at the same time, the way they've combined a transmission like this with the power of this car, it's almost like drinking orange juice after brushing your teeth. Something's not right. And that's why I think if you are a manual fanboy, get a GTI. But if you are a DSG fanatic, start with the Golf R. So I'm going to turn off to this road in a moment, and we're going to push this through some corners. I'm going to speed up the film for you in the boring parts. Overall, you can't fault this car for the sound it makes or for the way it grips the road with these Continental Conti Sport contact tires. Road noise is acceptable for a car of this caliber. And the only thing I would say is if you were to drive this car often or commute in it like I tried, you'll be disappointed with the noise it makes at all times. There's like a droney sound at some point, and we all know that it's not real exhaust. It's using this thing called sound actor, which is basically a speaker to reproduce this bassy exhaust sound. And overall, I feel the Golf R on the exhaust side of things isn't doing enough to really excite me. There's no burble, there's no real crackle, there's nothing really here that says this is the hottest Golf version you can buy today. It's just a loud exhaust, but it's nothing that actually spits fire and snaps and crackles. It's not like any of those Ford ST models. It's not like any of those AMG models from Mercedes. This is basically a very clean, very tight, very crisp, very smooth, fast Golf. But again, with a manual, it's not that fast. I actually own an Audi A3 2.0 Quattro, and it feels faster than this Golf. And that's a shock to many people who have told me that, oh, the Golf R feels faster than it sounds. But I'm actually not impressed. That's why I'd say avoid the manual, get the DSG, and start from there. The other benefit of getting a DSG in the Golf R is obviously with the DCC and navigation package and the radar cruise, you can actually use radar cruise in traffic when you have DSG. Now, regardless of which version you choose, DSG or manual, I do have a Fender stereo. And something tells me that when I put it in race mode, it actually increases the bass from the subwoofer a little bit, just to make it a little bit more noticeable. But don't quote me on that. I just sense that. Okay, so the road's going to wind up a little bit here. Downshifts are relatively easy, but you got to take your time with it. You can't do really quick gear changes in here. Oh, plus, with the lane keeping assist, it actually reads the lines on the road, and I have a display here that will show me what it sees. And basically, it will steer the vehicle if you are not taking the line that it wants to see. That's the best I can do as far as snappy gear changes in this Golf R, mainly because of the clutch pedal. It just seems to foil me every time. I haven't driven a manual in a while, and I don't own a manual at the moment, but it's just the way it shifts gears is just not fun. It's work. It's, if you're into that, do it, but it's not fun. Plus, there's a gear change indicator here for economy. It's quite annoying as well. It says, upshift to whatever, so it'll say 4, and then it will show 5 or 6, depending on what speed you're going. You wouldn't see that in a DSG because it'll handle it for you. Now this road isn't the greatest road. It's got some really rough asphalt on it. Probably hasn't been paved in a decade. But it is a fun road, as you can see here. Little brake, little gas. I'll tell you right now, the 4Motion really works. You can feel it pushing the car out of these corners. And the tires, holy crap, they grip. I really don't have much room left because of that Mustang. That's fine, it's not a race. I don't even know who that person is. But he is moving pretty good through here. Thankfully, we're not slowed down by some cruisers. Also, I'm a very strict person when it comes to the double yellow line. Where I grew up in Southern California, it was near Piuma and Mulholland and Malibu Canyon and Topanga and Decker and on and on and on. Stunt Road, it just keeps going. And you learn right away you do not cross the double yellow line. Also, the judges out there are very, very strict. It's $1,000 if you cross that double yellow line and you're caught. So there's no need to cross the double yellow. You should be able to stay within your lane. The car should have the grip, it should have the handling, it should be able to do it. And if you can't do it, you're not doing it right, or the car sucks. But in this case, the car is fantastic. Braking wise, I would say that the brakes aren't strong enough. You know, you have a lot of speed you're coming into these corners with, and in a manual, you are looking at downshift as well, right? DSG would do it for you automatically in sport mode, but in the manual, you have to do it. So if you have to downshift before you enter the corner, you have to brake harder. And the problem I have is with the pedal placement, I can't do any kind of heel towing, no matter what type of shoe I wear. And the brakes to me seem a little lazy. They don't bite like I'd expect them to. So that's about as quick as a gear change I can do. I'm just having fun now. Rowing some gears. I actually do like race mode a lot. I love the stiffer steering from it. Sometimes though, I find myself putting it in normal mode. Of course I can have a custom mode. And if I was going to do a custom mode for daily use, I would probably put steering in race, and then suspension in normal. And I really wish that there's a way to customize it so that if you hit a certain speed, it changes mode. And that would be awesome, Volkswagen, because what that means is when I hit the freeway or I hit tighter turns, I want a setting where I can tell the suspension to go into dynamic mode over, let's just say, 40 miles an hour. Because no one's really going to take a 90-degree right turn in the city at 40, but you will here on these twisty roads. And to fiddle around between the screen and the button here to go between these modes isn't what I want to be doing when I'm supposed to be focusing on the road ahead or the track. And so if I want the steering to be dialed in but something else to be adjustable based on speed, squirrel, whoo, it would be nice. Of course, I have nav. If I hit the nav button, it shows a really nice screen for the map. And it also has the ability to plug in your phone, and then you get Google or Android Auto, right? So you get Google Maps and all the little apps on your phone. I'm not a fan of any of that, Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, because I don't like plugging a phone in and unplugging it, plugging it in and unplugging every time I get in the car. Plus, I don't like seeing the cable strewn out across the cabin and anything flying around, because let's just say this, if you get T-boned or you roll off the road and you start flipping around, all this stuff's going to be swirling around in the cabin. You're going to get hurt. I'd rather just keep the phone in my pocket or in the glove box. In this particular car, the center armrest doesn't even open up. That's my one complaint, but I'll get to that in a minute. Basically, it has Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, yada, yada, yada. It's all controlled by the screen. I don't like it, but it's there for you. Traction control in this car is not obtrusive at all. I feel it getting in there and saving the day a little bit. I don't really hear the tires squealing, and it's a driver's car. It's a driver's car. And I know that they first launched the Golf R here without the manual, and then they brought the manual, but I think they were right to bring a DSG first. It's the faster car. I think if you're looking for fun, the GTI manual is where you should start. I already said that, but I'm just reaffirming it. I'm pretty sure that's what I would do. So on to the comfort level of this vehicle. Because I have an electronic parking brake, it also has auto hold. And that button will basically keep the foot on the brakes when your foot's not on the brake after you've come to a complete stop. So if you're at a long light, it will automatically hold the vehicle. And it won't release those brakes until you press the gas pedal. And that helps too with the inclines when you have to start off in first gear on an incline. But they kind of already have that built in, even on the GTI with the manual brake. The parking brakes do hold on an incline, and then I think they let go after about 3 seconds. This car will actually hold it permanently until you press the gas pedal because of auto hold. And that's cool. I guess if you live in a really hilly area, you would need that. That's something to consider. Otherwise, what I really dislike beyond the manual transmission in this car is the center armrest. It doesn't open up, it just slides forward and back, and it doesn't have an adjustment for height. And I find it's just not good enough. But it does get out of the way of shifting the gears. I don't think the car rewards you for driving harder. I just think it is capable of being driven harder, and it's more of a shock because you constantly want to find that limit or find the edge of the Golf R, and in my particular circumstances on the road, not on the track but on the road, I really haven't found its limit yet. So it is unlimited potential on the road here. Of course, you want to stay within the legalities of the legal road, but at the same time, it outperforms anything I've driven in the last 6 months. There are other cars out there at other price ranges that are obviously faster, cars at lower price ranges that are more engaging because they don't have as much tech on it. But if you want a $40,000 Golf, here it is. You know what? Another good thing about football, because this is a Sunday and today's Super Bowl Sunday, no one's on the road. Sundays, especially during really hot contested games, especially if they're local, it's a good time to go for a drive because no one's really out. And those who are out are like this guy, surprisingly want to get somewhere too. Now I do feel the steering constantly adjusting my line based on what it sees on the road with the painted lines. And if it only has painted lines on one side of the road, it will still recognize that. I find myself turning this system on and off because while it can save your ass, it also kind of gets a little too German on me because it's like, I want this line and it says 9-9, you must drive this way. But I don't know why it would do that. Maybe it coordinates that with traction control, I don't know. But now that I've got it turned off, I feel like I'm going through these corners my way, at my speed, and I would say if you do disable it, you might feel like you're a little bit more confident in the corners. I don't know if it helped me around some of those bends earlier, but I don't know if it helped me around those corners earlier, but it certainly feels like it might have. Obviously, over the bumps in race mode, it's compliant. I do hear the little circuit in the fuse box over there, something happening with ABS. Probably braking certain tires, certain corners through the turn there. Alright, so let me just, for shits and giggles, put it in normal mode. All of a sudden the exhaust changes. Doesn't feel like the feedback changes in the throttle mapping. Obviously, this car is not adapting to me because it doesn't have an automatic. I am in full control here, somewhat. Now, of course, if you want something like the Golf R and you can't reach this price range, there is the GTI. And there's something in between these two cars, and it's not a Volkswagen Golf. It's actually the Audi A3. I own one. It has DSG and Quattro, so it's basically like a hybrid between the Golf R and the GTI, and they actually are all using the same EA888 engine, but just with different tuning. So they have all the same displacement of 2 liters. It's a turbocharged 4-cylinder, and there are a few little differences there with the materials inside the engine, and then of course the tuning. But across that range, for your price point, what I would recommend is always avoid the Golf GTI S, because you do want better things like the fender stereo, for instance, and heated seats. You gotta have that. The other thing too is this Golf R has really cool headlights that are adaptive. So basically when you go and turn the wheel, the lights move to illuminate either the other lane or the corner. And it comes in handy. I like that, especially on the road I was just on. If I was driving that at night, well, you'd see where you're going. So those are things I would always look forward to upgrading on any car I buy, is upgrade the stereo, upgrade the headlights. I'm also a fan of getting outside dimmable mirrors. That's not really easy to find on cars at any price. Some options, even fully loaded cars, don't include that anymore. But that is nice to have. And then heated seats. Everything else around you is an option to you. Of course, this is the standard setup in most Golfs these days, except I have a piano black trim here and a weird carbon fiber-ish etched kind of trim on the door, and they don't match. I don't really care. I'm not a design guy, obviously, but at the same time I look at it and go, okay, so here's an example. I'm on this incline, and if I take my foot off the brake, it rolls back. But if I put auto hold on, take my foot off the brake, I'm staying here. And my foot's still off the brake. And we're not rolling. Now I put it on the gas, and we can roll forward without rolling back. Anyway, back to the interior. Whoa. Almost missed third again. Back to the interior. It doesn't feel like the older Golfs did. I have a huge amount of space here in this corner. You could fit a box. It's obviously for safety. Probably that offset frontal crash impact It is a safe vehicle, but at the same time, it feels big in here. And that's shocking because this is the MQB platform, which is the same as the Audi TT and the Audi A3, and soon to be a few future cars as well. It's a solid machine in most respects, except for the manual. And I know some of you are real hardcore manual fans. If you've never driven the Golf R and you just think it should be a manual just because, get in one and drive it. Because you can't really be the defender of the internet if you've never done it. Don't knock it till you try it. Now, if I go from normal to comfort mode, exhaust doesn't get any quieter. It's the same as it was in normal, but the steering feels a lot lighter. And I think the throttle mapping is different now too. And obviously the suspension is not damped as well. Yeah, it definitely feels slower in comfort mode, so that must be a throttle mapping thing based on what I'm used to as far as my inputs and the results of those inputs. I don't really like comfort mode, so I'm going to go back into normal. A benefit, actually, while we're on the subject of this lane keep assist again, because I'm going to bring it up again. If you are in a place like Texas and there's some crosswinds, you get some kind of windy days, and because of that high profile of the hatch and everything else, using the lane keep assist, right, will now help ensure that I stay in my lane even when there's a crosswind. So that's a good thing to have. I don't think it's available in most cars that are track focused. And that's just kind of a weird thing, right? Let's just say you want a track-focused car that is also your daily driver. Very few of them are able to do all of this, at this price range at least. Well, I'm going to forward this part. It's just kind of boring interstate kind of stuff, freeway thing. And when I get to where I'm going, I'll tell you what I think, as if I hadn't already. That's why I don't like lane keeping assist. It does not help in emergency lane change maneuvers, even when I signal. It's like a sticky clutch. It sounds like it's me. I don't think it's me. It's like a slow clutch. I can't get it. It's frustrating. It seems to spoil the fun. Okay, well, I took you through the long route. I was going to take a left at the other street, which is Riverside, but I'm actually here on Montopolis, which is really like the epicenter of the hotness that is East Riverside in Austin. And this market right here is interesting because it's a triangular shape along the river, and it's about 10 minutes from downtown. But historically, the time I've been here, I know that this community is mostly Hispanic, and they can't afford much, and they all work at all the restaurants and everything downtown. And this place is like their place. And basically, everyone is either being priced out, or they're basically making out like bandits and moving further out of the city, which means they have a commute and this and that. But what's coming in here is there's already a VA building. There's already a huge building for Spa Glass. Cisco is moving in here. They bought 26 acres for some sort of Apple-esque campus. And essentially, even with roads like this is a hot area. And immediately, I hope you're thinking, well, that's it? This is the big deal? This is like the hottest of Austin as far as markets? And the answer is yes. And I hope to equate your reaction to how I feel about the Golf R manual. You hear so much about it. It's loud, it's grippy, it's got all-wheel drive, it's like the ultimate Golf. Yet with the manual, it just kind of feels like this town. That's it? You better believe it. But apparently, people will pay anything to get one. And choose wisely. Thanks for watching. On the washer fluid for the windshield, it actually turns on the washer fluid for the headlight. So all you have to do is turn your headlights on, and it's this thing right here that pops out and it sprays the main light. And you'll see the fluid does not streak up the hood.